Try not to embarrass us in court, dear, Mom whispered, smoothing an imaginary wrinkle off my sleeve like she owned the fabric, and me. Dad added, almost cheerfully, when the numbers are read, don't fidget. It makes you look ungrateful. Cameras catch everything. Their laughter was soft, genteel, the kind rich people practice in mirrors. It slid over my skin like cold rain. I told myself to breathe. To keep the tremor out of my hands. To remember why I was here at all, why the ache behind my ribs had a name and a date stamped on it. Loss has a sound. It's the clink of metal frames when you pack your grandmother's glasses into a box, the hush that follows when no one says her prayers out loud. Hy everyone, my name is Delaney Rhodes. I grew up in houses where doors closed like decisions, crisp, final, never revisited. My parents taught me early which forks go with which courses, which smiles buy favors, which silences hide debts. They taught me how to be useful to their image, and invisible to their plans. We sat in the probate courtroom beneath lights that hummed like bees. Varnished benches. The faint citrus of furniture polish. A microphone stood at the clerk's desk like a thin-necked bird. My parents entered the way some people step onto carpets with their names woven in gold, slow, sure, admired by no one who mattered, worshipped by themselves. They nodded to distant acquaintances as if receiving tributes. Royalty in borrowed crowns. Dad leaned close, breath mint and arrogance. 6.85 million, he murmured, savoring each digit. Not bad for a woman who thought arugula was spinach. He meant my grandmother. The woman who taught me to tie my shoes, then loosen my grip on things that hurt. Mom's pearls clicked as she crossed her arms. We'll take care of everything, she said, the way people say we when they mean me. The judge's robe whispered as he Saturday. A shuffle of papers, the gentle crack of a spine opening, my grandmother's will, a book about to read us. I felt the wooden bench press a line into the backs of my knees, anchoring me. Across the aisle, a cousin I barely knew gave me a once-over and looked away, already rehearsing how to congratulate my parents. The clerk announced the case. The judge lifted his eyes. Silence poured into the room like smoke, curling around our throats. He turned to page 3. As per clause 12. The air thinned. Mom's smile tightened, then froze. Dad's fingers flexed on the pew. A single dust mote hung between us, bright as a small truth refusing to fall. The judge's voice was calm, almost kind. As per clause 12, the estate, valued at $6,850,000, is to be transferred in full to the legal guardian and sole heir, Ms. Delaney Rhodes. The words didn't echo. They landed. Heavy. Final. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Mom's perfume, sharp jasmine and disbelief, cut through the air. Excuse me, she said, rising halfway from her chair. There must be a misprint. Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. This is absurd. She's our daughter. That money belongs to us. The judge didn't even look up. It says here, Mrs. Rhodes, that your mother explicitly stated her wish. Delaney will inherit all I have because she was the only one who stayed. Because she was the only one who stayed. I felt the tremor finally break free in my hands. I remembered those nights, the hospital hallways, the way Grandma's skin felt papery but warm. The sound of the TV always tuned too loud because silence made her sad. The meals I cooked that no one thanked me for. The months my parents never visited. They visited now. For numbers, not for love. Mom's voice cracked. We supported her for years. This can't be legal. The judge turned a page. It is. Dad leaned toward me, face red and trembling. Fix this, Delaney. You'll regret humiliating us. Humiliating them? A slow calm washed over me, the kind that comes after a storm realizes it's over. I looked at him, at both of them, and finally said the thing I'd swallowed for a lifetime. You taught me how to hide pain. Maybe that's why you never saw mine. Their eyes flickered, not with guilt but confusion. They had no map for empathy. When the gavel struck, it was more than a sound. It was a door closing, on every version of me that once begged to be chosen. Outside, reporters waited. Cameras flashed. My parents walked past them like ghosts wearing designer armor. I didn't follow. I just watched their reflections fade in the courthouse glass, and smiled. Outside the courthouse, the wind tangled my hair like it wanted to carry the moment away. I didn't let it. I stood still, letting the noise swirl, reporters shouting questions, microphones shoved forward, the hum of cars passing like indifferent witnesses. My parents moved fast, faces stiff, their public masks cracked at the edges. Mom hissed over her shoulder, "Don't you dare talk to them. We'll handle this privately." But the cameras already caught her glare, the tremor in her lips. It was poetic, the woman who built her life on appearances finally losing control of one. When they drove off in their black sedan, silence found me again. I opened my phone and saw Grandma's last text, still pinned at the top. "Don't let them rewrite your kindness into weakness, my girl." I didn't reply back then. Now, I whispered to the wind, "I won't." Back home, the air felt different. The portraits in the hallway seemed to look down with new judgment, as if realizing I wasn't part of their quiet dynasty anymore. I was the disruption. My phone buzzed, 13 missed calls. All from Mom. Then a message. You embarrassed your father. We can still fix this if you sign over the property. It's only fair. Dad, don't make us take this legally. You know we'll win." I stared at their words until the screen dimmed. Fair. That was their favorite word, their weapon disguised as logic. I typed slowly, thumbs steady. "Emmy, Grandma's lawyer already transferred the deeds. Fair is finally fair." For a long time, there was no reply. Then, just one message came in. From Dad. "You'll regret crossing your own blood." I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the old jewelry box Grandma left me. Inside, a silver locket shaped like a teardrop. It clicked open with a sound that felt like memory. Inside was a folded note. "The house will show you everything you need to know." My pulse quickened. I didn't understand, not yet. But that night, I decided to move in. And that's when the silence began to whisper back. The first night in Grandma's house felt like stepping into her heartbeat. Every corner carried her scent, lavender and old books. The wooden floors groaned like they remembered too much. Outside, the wind rattled the ivy against the windows, and inside, the grandfather clock still ticked at the same rhythm she used to hum when she was thinking. I unpacked slowly, touching everything as if it might dissolve. Her cane leaned near the armchair, her teacup still resting on its saucer, a faint lipstick ring frozen in time. This wasn't just an inheritance. It was a museum of the love my parents pretended didn't exist. When I reached the study, I noticed the drawers were locked. A faint keyhole winked in the lamplight, same shape as the locket I wore. My breath caught. I unclasped the silver pendant, slid it in, and turned. Click. The drawer opened, revealing a single yellowed envelope. On the front, in Grandma's careful handwriting. "For when they come for you." My chest tightened. I unfolded the letter. "Delaney, if you're reading this, they've already tried to take what isn't theirs. I've kept proof, everything they did with my accounts, the forged signatures, the property transfers under false names. I didn't confront them. I left the truth for you. My lawyer knows. He'll find you when the time is right." I sank onto the chair, pulse hammering. My parents hadn't just expected the inheritance, they'd built their lives on stealing from her. Suddenly, the silence of the house shifted, not comforting anymore. A car door slammed outside. Then another. Headlights cut through the curtains. Mom's voice carried across the porch. "Delaney, open up. We need to talk." I stood in the hallway, the letter trembling in my hand. My father's shadow stretched through the frosted glass, larger than life, the way it always used to feel when I was small. They weren't here to talk. I tucked the letter inside my sleeve, steadied my breath, and turned the deadbolt. "Come in," I said softly. "I was wondering when you'd show up." The storm outside wasn't the only one breaking. They entered like intruders pretending to be family. Mom's perfume arrived before her, floral, suffocating. Dad's shoes thudded on the hardwood, the same rhythm he used when pacing before an argument. "You've changed the locks," he said flatly. "I live here now," I replied. Mom's gaze swept across the living room like a scanner, cataloging what she planned to reclaim. "This was our home," she insisted, voice brittle. "Your grandmother was confused when she wrote that will." "She was lucid enough to remember who loved her," I said. Dad's mouth curled into a cold smirk. "Listen carefully, Delaney. You think you've won something. But the taxes on this estate, the upkeep, the legal fees, they'll bury you. You'll come crawling back." He wasn't wrong about the pressure, but his voice carried a tone I hadn't heard before, desperation. He was bluffing, cornered by his own greed. I crossed my arms, feeling the paper edge of Grandma's letter under my sleeve. Actually, I said quietly, I already spoke to her lawyer. Mom froze. What did he say? That he knows everything. The silence that followed was surgical. Dad's eyes darkened. You wouldn't dare ruin your family's name. Then stop giving me reasons to, I whispered. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Mom's tone softened, the switch she always used to win. Delaney, sweetheart, we can make this right. Give us access to the accounts, and we'll manage it together. You can trust us. I almost laughed. Trust? That's rich. Her smile cracked. Don't be dramatic. Dad took a step closer, his shadow swallowing the space between us. You're making a mistake. I looked straight into his eyes. So did you, when you underestimated me. A car horn blared outside. A sedan I didn't recognize stopped at the gate. Dad's expression shifted. Through the frosted glass, I saw a man step out, carrying a briefcase, Grandma's lawyer. Dad whispered, "What have you done?" I didn't answer. I just turned toward the door as lightning flashed across the window, illuminating everything we'd all been pretending not to see. The front door creaked open, and the lawyer stepped in, shaking rain from his coat. His eyes flicked between me and my parents, reading the storm before he spoke. "Evening," he said calmly, setting the briefcase on the table. "Mrs. Rhodes, Mr. Rhodes. I believe you were expecting clarification." Dad's jaw tightened. "We weren't expecting company." The lawyer didn't flinch. "Mrs. Eleanor Rhodes left very explicit instructions regarding her estate. I've already filed the verification documents. Everything stands, legally, irrevocably." Mom's voice rose. "You can't just walk in here and humiliate us." He turned toward her, tone cool. "I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here to close unfinished business." He opened the briefcase and pulled out a thin folder, photographs, bank statements, notarized copies. My breath hitched. Grandma had been thorough. Every lie my parents told had a date and a signature beside it. Dad's hand slammed the table. "Those are personal records." The lawyer met his glare. "They're evidence. Mrs. Rhodes discovered financial misconduct in the years before her passing. She chose not to press charges out of love for her family. But she wanted the truth protected, in case that love wasn't returned." For a second, I thought Dad might lunge. Mom grabbed his wrist, her voice trembling now. "Please, just let it go." The lawyer closed the folder gently, as if sealing a coffin. "I'll leave copies with Delaney. If you wish to contest the will, you'll find it difficult." He gave me a brief nod and left, the sound of the door closing like punctuation. The silence that followed was unbearable. Dad's breathing grew ragged. "You planned this." I met his fury with calm. "No. Grandma did." He took a step toward me, eyes glinting with something dangerous. Mom reached for him, whispering, "Stop. She has everything." Outside, thunder cracked. Inside, I stood taller. "Get out," I said quietly. "Before I forget you're still my parents." They hesitated, then left. The door shut, and the house exhaled. For the first time, I felt safe enough to cry. The rain didn't stop for 2 days. It drummed on the windows, steady and cleansing, as if the house itself was washing away years of secrets. I walked through each room with Grandma's letter in one hand, the lawyer's folder in the other. The walls seemed softer now, the air lighter, grief finally giving way to peace. But I knew my parents wouldn't disappear quietly. By the third evening, an email arrived. Subject: Final offer. From Dad. Body: You may think you've won. But reputations crumble faster than fortunes. You release those documents, and I release everything I know about your emotional issues. Think carefully before you destroy your own name. I stared at it for a long time, half laughing through tears. They'd raised me to believe silence was safety, that obedience was love. Now they were weaponizing both. So I took a deep breath, and hit reply. Subject: Thank you for confirming everything. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. I didn't send the documents to the press. I sent them to the board of trustees where my father worked, and to the foundation my mother chaired, both of which my grandmother had quietly donated to. By morning, my phone lit up with news alerts. Rhodes' family investigation launched. The photo attached made my stomach twist. My parents leaving their house, faces pale, refusing to answer questions. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt released. Later that day, I walked out to Grandma's garden. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled like soil and beginnings. A robin hopped across the stone path, her favorite bird. I knelt, pressing my palm against the damp earth. I did what you couldn't, I whispered. I told the truth. The wind stirred the wind chime she'd hung outside her window, 3 soft notes that felt like an answer. Inside, the house phone rang. It was the lawyer again. He said quietly, "Delaney, there's one last document we haven't opened yet. Your grandmother wanted you to decide when." I froze, heart pounding. What document? He paused. The one labeled redemption. The next morning, the lawyer arrived with a small wooden box. It was old, carved with ivy patterns that matched the ones outside Grandma's window. He placed it gently on the dining table, the same one she used for Sunday breakfasts and birthday candles. "This," he said softly, "was meant for you alone." She called it redemption. My hands trembled as I opened the latch. Inside lay 2 envelopes, one with my name, one with my parents', and beneath them, a small silver key. I opened mine first. "Delaney, you have already redeemed what was broken, not with revenge, but with truth. I've seen enough in my years to know that justice doesn't roar, it whispers. Use the key only when you're ready to forgive, not before. You'll know where it belongs." I looked down at the key, ornate, delicate, faintly familiar. And then it hit me. The old cedar chest in the attic. Upstairs, the air smelled of dust and time. I found the chest tucked beneath a quilt, the lock still intact. When the key turned, the hinges sighed open. Inside were dozens of family photographs, not the posed ones my parents displayed, but real ones. Grandma laughing with flour on her cheek, Dad as a boy clutching a puppy, Mom holding me as a baby before the frost set in her smile. Tucked among them was a note in Grandma's looping script. "These were the moments before pride took over. Someday, I hope you'll remind them who they were." That evening, I mailed the second envelope to my parents. No threats. No gloating. Just the photographs, proof that love once lived here, too. Weeks passed. The investigation silenced them publicly, but privately, they reached out, not with anger this time, but with apology. Broken, hesitant words. I didn't answer right away. I visited Grandma's grave instead. "I think you were right," I whispered. "Justice doesn't need noise. It just needs light." The wind moved gently through the grass. Somewhere, a robin sang. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.